I wish I read more. Yeah, lack of time. And I read a lot in my work. So I don't feel like I have time to read. But I try.
I read all sorts. I like fiction, historical fiction. I do have to read for work, but that's a different kind of reading. But if I read a book, and I read books, not on a Kindle, I read for pleasure.
I like just story. I don't read really something like scientist because I just need to calm down and not think. I'm reading just like 20 minutes book. It helps to sleep and that's perfect. And I do like to read at the bar with my dog because I just sit and that's it.
Welcome to Brussels, My Love, the podcast with me, Maeve McMahon. You're listening to a special bonus episode about books and reading, something that can give us a chance to escape in this whirlwind period of intense news and current affairs. On the first Sunday of every month, we'll be bringing you a special bonus episode where we take a break from the hard news and kick back with either a book review or a more cultural or lifestyle episode. So for this special episode, I'm thrilled to say we have an author in the house, Irina Papancheva, the Brussels-based writer from Bulgaria, known for her book Brussels Naked. Welcome.
Hi, Maeve. Thank you.
We also have Stefan Grobe, Euronews' political correspondent, who can often be found with a nose in a book, obviously outside working hours, Stefan.
Hi, Maeve. Yeah, glad to be here.
Self-confessed bookworm.
Yes.
And you've brought a couple of books as well.
Yeah, I brought one non-fiction book and two novels. And I want to start with the novel that I was given for my birthday a few months ago. And it's by a young German-speaking writer called Nelio Biedermann. And the title of the book is Lazar, a Novel. And it's a fascinating thing. This is his first novel. The guy is 23 years old, lives in Switzerland, born in Switzerland, but is of Hungarian descent. And this book tells the story of a noble dynasty in Hungary throughout the 20th century. So from the beginning, the Habsburg Reich, pre-World War I to the Hungary that we know. And what is interesting, Nelio Biedermann is 23, and when the book came out in German last fall, it became an immediate sensation. It was translated into all the different languages and became a bestseller, and critics compared him to Thomas Mann, Joyce, Proust, etc. I'm not going into details here. Also, I don't want to be a spoiler, but it's a fascinating book. We learn a lot about Hungary, of course, and the various dynamics within the family, several generations. I can highly recommend that.
And so inspiring, as you say, to see a 23-year-old. And today, for this recording, we do have a couple of students with us here. So that's a pretty inspiring story, to hear of such a young guy with, as you say, so knowledgeable and with such a gift of the pen to be able to describe and capture that and engage so many people. Irina, you are a writer. When did you get involved in this career? When did you realise this is really what I want to do? And how did you get there? Because it's not easy.
No, it's not easy, but I started writing when I was 9 years old.
9?
Yes, I started writing then diaries and poems and very short stories, a few paragraphs.
Amazing. And Stefan, talk us through one of the other books that you've brought with you.
Now, the second novel I brought also has a European background. It's by Robert Menasse, very famous Austrian writer in his early 70s, who a couple of years ago wrote a book that also became an instant success, especially in this town, called The Capital. And the capital was Brussels, the capital of the European Union, and a very funny book about the inner workings of the EU institutions and the EU bureaucracy, etc. Now, I have here the sequel. It's called The Enlargement. And this is about one of the thorniest issues that we have in EU politics, enlargement policy. And it's a story about two men from Poland who were, back in the day, very close friends in Poland before Poland became a democracy. So during communism, they became blood brothers, so really, really thick. And then they parted ways, different careers. Now, one became the prime minister of Poland, and the other became a high top official in the EU Commission. And now they're facing the problem of enlargement. And it turns out that the prime minister in the book is trying to block further enlargement, which makes his friend mad because He said, this is treason. This is against everything we stood. So this is one story in the book. The other story is the frantic attempt of Albania to become a member of the European Union. And so there are a lot of different dynamics here at work. It's a very funny book. Olwat Manasseh is the master of wittyism. He did very, very funny, very ironic style. And for every resident in the EU bubble here in Brussels, this is a must read, I think.
And it's
the
funny,
enlargement.
Stefan, because all the topics that you're mentioning and all the various books that you've brought today, we do cover here on Brussels, My Love, the podcast extensively.
Well, I selected them on purpose.
Of course you did. You did your homework. And also your book, Brussels Naked, it's very much Brussels focused. After I read it, I wanted to call all my Brussels based friends and be like, you need to pick up this book, because everyone who's come here, many perhaps as an intern or completely broke with like 100 years in their bank account, lots of ambition, but no job. And they've kind of made their way through this quirky, multicultural, multilingual town. Talk to us about how you wrote this book and what inspired you to write it.
So I came to Brussels in 2003, exactly like my main character Iris, as a trainee at European Parliament. When I came here, I didn't have any expectations towards the city. On the opposite, I had heard all that many people have heard of it. And over these 5 months that I spent here, I totally loved it. I felt at home, I felt connected, found friends, loved multilingualism and all that. I felt I love to live here, I belong here. So the first chapter of my book is largely informed by my experience back on the day. Places are very key in my writing, have been so far. And it took quite some time to write about Brussels, which is so important in my life, as I came back and I live here until the present moment. Why did it take me so much time? I suppose I needed to get more of Brussels and experience it in all sorts of ways to be able to write of it not as the city that I discovered for myself and to put my story in the center, but to put Brussels in the center. And this takes experience, and this takes knowing, and many of the stories, almost all of them in the book, are true. Not all of them happened to me, but I heard them through time or experienced them, then I fictionalized them. But I claim the book to be rather objective in what can happen in this city.
And just to give a flavour of what can happen in this city, for example, one of the points that you jump into is that of a Dutch employee at the European Central Bank when he makes the mistake of his life, maybe, when on a lonely night he calls a Slovenian escort. So that's a little bit of a flavour. Yeah, you see, it's triggering your interest, right? So it's not all just about documents and boring committee meetings in the European Parliament. And just on the word naked, you have a reference to the naked spa in there. A lot of people who live in Brussels will have experienced once in their life the naked spa. For someone like me from Ireland, this is like insane. You just don't do it. So obviously living in Brussels now for many years, I've come to terms with it. But Stefan, for you it's normal, you're German.
Now you got me. What is the naked spa?
Have you never been
No.
to the naked spa? I mean, in Germany, you probably don't even think twice about going to the spa and stripping. You take off all your clothes to sit inside the sauna or the steam room with a group of strangers, male, female. In Ireland, not done. What about the guys over here from the UK? No, not done. You see, I can see your faces. You just don't do this. But yeah, this is something that people experience. For you as well, perhaps was that a personal experience you had in Brussels, Irina, that you then brought into the book so beautifully?
Yes, actually, indeed. As a fresh trainee in the second week, my Belgian flatmate took me to a spa and I didn't know what to expect. So it is true, the way I have described it. It is the case that I asked her, shall I bring my swimming suit? She said, oh no. What? Just bring a towel. So I was wondering, why is that? But still, I didn't figure until I got there. And then I thought, that's heaven. I really enjoyed it. And
I agree.
I have been many times since.
Exactly, I agree. Now it seems absurd to wear a bathing suit in the sauna or the steam room. When we say naked, we're not just referring to the naked spa, Irina.
No, of course not. Many of my characters in the different chapters at some point will find themselves naked. And this is not always literally naked. For a Muslim woman who is wearing her hijab to unveil in front of a man who is not yet her husband is also being naked. So I played with the nakedness in all sorts of ways. There are also the naked models in the art academy which are being painted. Nakedness can be many, many things, but mostly I wanted to show the city, or to actually gradually undress it and show its different phases, states, conditions, how it can be for also its different citizens, because it is not the same city for everybody who lives here, obviously, as any other city. But in this city, as you have said yourself, we can find a lot of variety.
Indeed. And you capture that beautifully in the book. So well done.
Thank you.
I want to agree with what you said, that Brussels is a treasure trove of stories. I don't know any, there's stories from every big city, but Brussels has the unique mix of many cultures coming together and interacting together. There's so many, you're from Bulgaria, I'm from Germany, she's from Ireland. These folks are from Britain. None of us is Belgian, right? But still, we all come here, we work here, we live here, and there are so many stories. You just need to open your eyes, walk through the city, and detect them.
And if you look at the Parliament, such a huge institution with so many people walking around there, bringing so much life and indeed so much stories. You brought another book, Stefan.
Yeah, that is in a sharp departure from our discussion that we're having here right now. This is a non-fiction book, and I choose this. It's relatively new. It was published last year, and I'm sorry I have to stay with my beat here as a former Washington correspondent. This is a biography of Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was the national security advisor of President Carter in the late 70s, written by Financial Times correspondent Edward Luce, and it's called Spig, The Life of Zbigniew Brzezinski, America's Great Power Prophet. Now, why did I choose this? There are some parallels between today and then, and that is the confrontation with Iran. Now, the Carter administration famously was facing the Iran after the revolution, when the new people in power took 52 American hostages and who remained hostages for a year and a half, a thing that probably cost Carter the re-election. And Brzezinski was one of, maybe the only one inside Carter's inner circle who was advocating for military action against Iran. And Carter always refused to do that. He said, military action will be certainly stronger than Iran. It will give us some pleasure for a few hours, a few days. And then what? They have the hostages. They will probably kill them. That's not worth it. And he, even after the release of the hostages, Carter in his books always defended his position, not going inside Iran militarily.
Okay, one to keep an eye on too. And just, Irina, coming back to you and your research for this book, for Brussels Naked, do you think that Brussels is a kind city or a cruel city?
It can be both. And this is something which my experience has shown. I have experienced it in different ways. And also some of my characters, they share actually very varied experiences. And they also share the ways in which Brussels can be cruel, and then also the ways in which Brussels can be enchanting, magical, a city where you meet people easily, a city in which you can be very lonely. And most of my characters are lonely.
And this is one of the reasons, indeed, why we're talking today about books, because it is a lonely, tough world out there. And with the news cycle as well today, it's good to escape. Just briefly, Stefan, how many books do you read per month?
It's hard to tell. I think I read a book per week. So
one book per week
would be 4, yeah.
And Irina, what about you? Are you a big reader? And what's next for you when it comes to writing?
Yes, of course. I mean, You cannot be really a writer if you are not a vivid reader. So I always read. I always have at least one book that I read, sometimes more. I have just finished Stefan Zweig's The Vote of Yesterday, which is very topical. And one can recognize those realities between the two wars nowadays. So it's really an eye-opener. And then I read Confusion, again by Stefan Zweig, which I absolutely loved. And now I'm with Elias Canetti and his memoir.
Have you read those, Stefan?
Yeah. Elias Canetti is one of my favorites. Irina, a question: where do you read? Some people always read before going to bed, or do you have a special? I, for instance, I hate wasting time on a bus or in a hospital in a waiting room or something. I always have a book with me because I think even if I sit here for 20 minutes, I can rather
and
use
it's such amazing escapism.
How do you read?
Likewise, I have always my Kindle with me. It is now in my bag as well. So also public transport. If I have to wait somewhere, I use the time to read. I could read early in the morning if I don't write, because usually that's when I write before my day work, or in the evening when I travel and just anywhere.
Okay, Irina Papancheva and Stefan Grobe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. A pleasure.
Yeah, for this very special bonus episode that focused on books and reading. Big thanks also to our sound technician, Georgos Levaditis, our Brussels My Love podcast producer, Alice Carnivali, and our social media aide, Luca Grundeskaite. And thank you so much for listening. If you're not already, you can listen to this series on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on euronews.com or Euronews' YouTube channel. And if you like what you hear, subscribe to Brussels My Love the podcast, drop us a review, give us a rating, and spread the word about Brussels My Love the podcast. And also let us know what you're reading. You can write to us at brusselsmylove@euronews.com. See you soon.